Hey there, hi there, ho there, hello there, and welcome back to another exciting edition of the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast, where we discuss the joy and excitement of U of L women's athletics. Got a good show lined up for you today. Four different areas we're going to hit. Talking a little women's basketball and the recent signees. We're also going to talk a little bit about the great exhibition volleyball match last night with the two state rivals, Kentucky and Louisville, scoring off. Also discuss a little bit of softball and also women's lacrosse as they are basically at the end of their season now. But three good contestants today to bring us the news that we are going to cover with you. Let's go as we like to normally do and introduce the contestants. I call you guys contestants, but I don't think that you're not winning any prizes by being here or anything. Let's call you participants. How
And
does
and
that
no
sound?
quiz, I assume.
No quiz at all today. No, I haven't got the Cardinal couple quiz back up yet. Uh, I don't know if I'm going to do it this year or not. We'll wait and see. It's never been a popular thing in the past. I can tell you that. But still, we've had some fun with it. In any event, go ahead and in case you're jumping in here, so let's go ahead and bring you in first, Case Hoskins. Case, what's been up with you this week, man?
It's just been another busy week. So, nose to the grindstone kind of week and got some things done and hopefully a little bit of a breather uh, moving forward. So, should be a little bit better, but we'll see.
There you go. Staying with your nose to the grindstone, so to speak. That's got to be painful, but hopefully, hopefully you'll get that taken care of. That might hurt. Jared Anderson in the house as well with us. And Jared is expecting visitors from far lands coming in to see him today, right after the broadcast. So, have you got the red mat out, Jared?
No, no red carpet because Bentley would chew it up. So just the hardwood floor for when our good friend Mike Gilpatrick is going to be in town for Easter weekend. So he's stopping by before he goes to see his family.
We all, of course, remember Mike from used to be on the old Cardinal Couple Radio Hour from time to time with us when we were down on Melwood Avenue, broadcasting on WCHQ, and has stayed a great friend with Jared over the years, and we've talked with him from time to time. So it'd be good for you guys to catch up. And so he is actually going back to Shelbyville, huh? If I remember correctly, where his parents reside.
Yep, I think he's making the trip to go to church with them tomorrow morning, and I think he'll be hitting the road uh, back up to Indianapolis where he left his wife who had work today.
Understand? Well, it's
Work
always tough to go
today.
without the spouse. Yeah,
So he's just here, I
that's
think, Saturday through Sunday morning, and that's about it.
yeah, tough to work on a day like today. But I think you said something. But she was in the medical profession, so
She's a
un-
nurse,
Mm.
okay.
so
Unfortunately, the nurses sometimes have to work when we don't in order to care for patients. So
no
they're
such thing
certainly
as a holiday when you're in the medical.
yeah, sad but true. But certainly they provide a service that when they get their days off, they are well deserved. I think we can all kind of agree on that a little bit. As for me, just kind of another week. Had a couple of doctor's appointments and it was suggested because my oxygen level has been a little bit low and I've had this shortness of breath that I'm running into when I try to walk any distance at all. One of my pulmonologists that basically said, "Let's put you on a little bit of oxygen from time to time and see what that does for you." So unfortunately, it's not costing me anything. Insurance picks it all up, but they have sent me out some things to if I find myself short of breath and basically unable to go very far. They've got oxygen for me to try. I'm going to do that therapy for a while and see what happens. Also, got good news from Vanderbilt University that they are going to interview me for a kidney transplant, and that's big news for me because Vanderbilt is a very fine, reputable kidney organ transplant center. They even have a facility in Evansville where they do their initial assessments and stuff. So next Wednesday, Sonia and I will make the trip down to Evansville to have the initial assessment on getting me a new body part, as they say. And I'm looking forward to that quite a bit. That kind of catches, I think, you all up with what's going on with us. Let's get caught up with U of L a little bit and see what's going on with them. And I think certainly, one of the areas that we can talk about when we get to that a little bit would be the volleyball, which took place last night. Now, this was a volleyball match that was out of season, known as an exhibition, but it featured two very, very well known opponents to us and each other, Louisville and Kentucky, facing at the LNFCU, that's the Louisville National Credit, excuse me, Federal Credit Union on campus there, the gym basically on campus across from Homer, where a capacity crowd was on hand to watch this exhibition. Jared Anderson was there snapping photos. So, Jared, we're going to kind of let you take off and carry the ball on this one. Tell us what you saw, what you liked.
Yeah, great crowd, full house, sold out event. There was no chance to buy tickets at the door if you didn't purchase ahead of time. For a lot of folks, if you didn't make it out to Freedom Hall last week when the Cards played Tennessee, this is first chance to see Dan Meskey in action as the head coach and see what he's got with the team this year. I do believe we've got another setter that's supposed to come in during the summer. I think she's going to be a freshman. So the lineup could shift a little bit, but as of right now, Naelis Cabello looks to be our primary setter without a doubt. She's certainly made some big strides from freshman year last year to already the springtime. So no concern there. Obviously, some big shoes to replace with Anna DeBeer, Elena Scott, Charity Looper, PK, all graduating. The main outside hitter spot, we're going to see a lot of Peyton Peterson, who really made her name known in the NCAA tournament when Anna Beer went down, as well as there's a transfer that's coming in from Purdue. Her name's Chloe Chicoen. We've got her for 2 years. She's very Charity Looper-like, a little bit on the undersized side, but jumps well, hits hard, and can also play back row defense. Certainly a big asset there. Defensively, it does sound like there's a battle for the libero position right now. I think Camden Tran is the front runner from what I could see last night, but there's been some talks Molly Urban could slide in there, or there's a freshman that's joined the Cards. Her name's Hannah Kinney. It looks like she was struggling a little bit on the serve receive, which you can't have as a defensive specialist. She reminds me a lot of Elena Scott, honestly. Same height. She has some setter experience in high school. Even like body movement wise, great setter. Great in terms of defending the attack, but the serve receive is still a little bit of a struggle for her. We'll see that develops over time. Kara Cressy and Hannah Sherman are going to hold up that middle very well. No concerns there. There was a lot of misdirection plays last night in terms of even setting Naelis, who's our setter, for her to get a couple hits, big kills for her. She's had a couple dump offs. It could be an interesting offense, exciting. Just they're going to run a lot of misdirection just to throw teams off, especially due to us being undersized. That may hurt with blocking this coming season, I think, just a little bit. Defensively, I think we'll have a strong back row on defense, which is probably the weakness that Louisville had last season. But it's also spring ball. You rotate players in and out. You throw a lot of players in some positions and rotations that you don't expect them to normally. So things could certainly change, but it looked good to win against what should be a ranked Kentucky team 3-1 is great, and last week to beat a ranked Tennessee team is great. So it's good momentum going into summertime and then into the fall. But I'm expecting another easy top 10 season for the Cards, Elite 8 in the books, hopefully a Final Four and beyond.
So the match where the Cards were in control all but one set, winning the first set 25-17, then falling in the second set 20-25, but then coming back looking very, very convincingly dominant in the final two sets 25-16 and 25-14. So, Case, did you catch any of this? Cover any of this? Watch any of this?
I did not. I completely spaced on the fact that it existed. And then also Lindsay and I both had some work events the last couple nights. Like she had something on Wednesday, I had something on Thursday, so we were just catching up on some shows and generally spending time with each other instead of apart.
Certainly advisable to do that when you are wearing the other's ring. Yes, sir, indeed. Uh, Cards, they basically have shown us some things that I think we're going to enjoy watching this year, as far as players that we may not have known a whole lot about, but are going to come in and do a lot of things for us. And Jared, let's just talk about a couple of these right now. Peyton Peterson really didn't burst onto the scene until the actual NCAA tournament last year. We just didn't know a whole lot about her until then, but certainly has come on this year and has been fighting out there to get herself a role with those who play a lot. And also Hannah Sherman coming in to do some things which are going to be needed by this team this year. Also a little bit from and this is one that I'm not familiar with at all, but she's I believe a transfer in, Chloe Ciccone. So kind of catch us up on those three a little bit, Jared, and what we can expect out of them.
Yeah, Peyton Peterson definitely has made a big jump from freshman year to sophomore year. She was a pretty highly touted recruit coming in as a freshman anyways. As you mentioned, she burst onto the scene in the NCAA tournament when Anna DeBeer went down in that pit match, and quickly built a following from that. Her mom's the head coach for Northern Iowa. Was kind of curious if she might transfer there or if she was going to follow Danny to Nebraska. She chose to stay here and play for Dan Meskey, which is great because she's going to be a very good outside hitter, potential for some ACC honors by the end of the season. Still needs a little bit of work probably in the back row. I think they do want to play her a full rotation, so you'll expect some defense out of her in the back row. But on that offensive front, blocking, outside hitting, she's great. Don't have any concerns there. Chloe Ciccone that came in from Purdue. She was, I believe, the top outside hitter as a freshman, her freshman year went at Purdue. Very similar to Charity Looper in terms of size, but can almost jump through the roof. For being a junior, she certainly brings some experience and maturity, a couple years of NCAA tournament experience there at Purdue, which is certainly going to be helpful. And then Hannah Sherman, who's probably kind of played more of a behind the scenes third team role behind Kara Cressy and PK in the past. But that was a battle for middle blocker even last year. And Hannah Sherman's a very solid player. She's worked on her hops a little bit, got probably a couple more inches on the vertical, which is big. She'll be her and Kara are really going to be key to our blocking this year. I'm not sure how much we'll use Hannah on the offensive attack yet, but with some of the misdirection that seems like we want to run, I do think she's going to get some opportunities for some kills here and there. I think she just has to make sure she's patient. She certainly likes to get a little bit eager up there at the net, so you don't want to get the in the net calls, and you don't want to whiff on a ball either. But she's got a chance to really shine this year.
Certainly one of the players also that we are not real familiar about right now, but certainly expect to learn a lot about here. Calissa Blackshear. In case this is one that just kind of jumped in here and said, "Hi, I'm a Cardinal now. Look at me." And I think, and discuss this a little bit with me, the Dan S. Meskey era, which has begun 4-0 with 4 exhibition wins, basically does not seem to have dropped one bit from the previous Danny Busboom Kelly era.
Yeah, I mean we're gonna have to see, right? The spring matches, the exhibitions that they are. Sometimes you get rotated sides from both teams. Sometimes you get a little bit of fun rules. We've seen in the past where They've played spring exhibition matches and go all 5 sets no matter what. But these last two, especially Tennessee and Kentucky, it was very much straight play. And whether Kentucky and Tennessee were testing out what they had, it has to be said that Louisville must, by definition, be testing out what they have on the roster because of so much turnover from last year. You have three significant starters, and 4 if you count Ellie Glock, but at least 3 significant starters that are no longer on this roster, in Elena Scott, Charity Looper, and Anna DeBeer. So you're filling very significant positions there. They're all getting filled with players that we generally know to some extent. Chacon will be a little bit of an interesting one to see how she fits in, but having Peterson and Robbins, those are players that we're aware of. Peterson less so, but getting more as each day goes on, it seems. And then Camden Strand, we saw her actually in the libero jersey a couple of times last season with the 2 libero allowance. But really, Elena Scott was running the show there. So, when you're filling those shoes, you're going to run a much more traditional setter rotation, probably at this point with Nielis Cabello. We'll see. We have the transfer setter in from Washington. That being Molly Wilson, who I'm not sure if she's on campus yet. They don't have a photo for her. So
she was not with the team last night. She'll join during the summer.
Gotcha. Yeah. So not on campus yet. So that battle fully hasn't come to fruition. So we'll still see what's going to come from that. But with Mesky coming in, or with Mesky staying in, I should say, not really coming in. You have that continuation. So you have a lot of the same players. You have a similar philosophy to some extent. And I don't think that Mesky is going to play the exact same style. I don't think it will be a true continuation of Danny Busby Kelly's time at the helm for U of L. I think that Mesky is an incredible coach and will have certainly his own style, and I'm excited to see kind of what that turns into for this volleyball team and volleyball program. And there's not a really better way to have started it than to get 4 wins in spring ball, especially playing against good teams like Tennessee and Kentucky. One of those being a rivalry match. They played them all over the place, played in high school gyms, played in Freedom Hall, played in L&N. So I think that's very big to get more of a, what's the right word? More of a variety already for this new look Louisville team to see what they can get moving forward, and get more accustomed to different venues rather than getting comfortable in one spot. So it's a successful spring, I think, by any stretch of the imagination.
Jared, the squad kind of meets the eye test on the 3 areas that you kind of have to look at anytime there's a change in who your top person is. First of all, how is the new coach doing? Well, fine, obviously, 4-0, going all over the state to play matches and winning them. How is the new coach bringing in new talent? Quite well, from what we're seeing here. Some of the players that are coming in, some of the players that he's moving up in the ranks to be starters are very, very good and going to contribute a lot to the team. And the third thing is basically, how is he with the media? Okay? And that's an important one because the media basically are going to make or break him as far as what he does. One of the major problems and I'm not going to call it a problem, one of the things that kind of frustrated us in the media is that Danny was not exactly an outgoing, Gabby type of person to talk with us for a long time after matches, like obviously Ann Cordes was. and it looks like, to me, Dan Meskey's going to be. Your thoughts on those?
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about Dan's personality. I think it's very outgoing, very fun, positive. Also, when you're in this new realm of social media as a recruiting tactic with making TikTok videos and Instagram reels and posts, he's a lot more open to that type of stuff. Just very laid back, go with the flow. With what can we do on social media to help? I think it was pretty big that he was able to retain pretty much the entire staff. Obviously, the only position he had to fill was his own once he got elevated to head coach. A former grad assistant with the program, Parker, they brought him back, and he's playing an assistant coach role. You pretty much kept the entire team. We knew Peckering Kong was going to transfer out anyways before the season ended. She went back closer to home at UCLA. That was expected. That wasn't as a result of a coaching change. And then the Ellie Glock situation, there had kind of been some whispers anyways, as Neolis Cabello was starting to take over that role anyways. And then once we saw we've got Molly Wilson transferring in from Washington as a setter, I think Ellie Glock was just kind of ready to hang up her jersey for good. She's been playing volleyball for a few years, I believe 4 now. So really no concerns. Got a couple nice transfers in, a solid group of freshmen. I mean, so he's done everything he's needed to so far. He's already got the crowd behind him. You don't have to worry about that. So it's not earning the crowd and getting them to come out. It's just keeping them. So just keep doing what you're doing. Win, you'll be fine. Fans understand it's a coaching change and things may look different, but I don't think they're going to be that much different. I think you're just going to see maybe more focus on offense. Last couple of years, you could just say, get the ball to Beer and Looper and not worry about anything. So you've got to focus a little bit more on some new offensive threats this year.
And I think not only understanding that it's a coaching change, I think this Louisville volleyball fan base is very knowledgeable, and they understand that when you're changing the style that you're going to play from a setter role, even though they did kind of shift more to the traditional 6-1 with Cabello, but you're losing Elena Scott, you're losing Anna DeBeer. Everybody kind of sees that and knows that. There's going to be definitely some grace given for a new coaching staff and new players to take over those leadership roles.
I think we can kind of look at it and say all's well with volleyball. Bring on the regular schedule next year. Moving on over, we did have softball in action last night. The Cards are they did not play last night. Excuse me. They played Friday night.
Last night was Friday night.
Oh, you're right.
And Thursday night. They played Thursday, Friday instead of Friday, Saturday, Sunday for some reason.
They moved the schedule up because of, that's right. Okay. Friday, taking on the University of Virginia in Charlottesville on their court there, on their diamond there, as we should say. The Cards unfortunately ran into a Virginia team who had a huge 4th inning on Louisville and ended up taking the Cards 8-2 in the match. I think a game where they'll play the rubber match, today at noon. This one was a game where the Cards battled back to tie it up early, but unfortunately that huge inning by the Virginia Cavaliers in the 4th kind of it took us down a little bit there. Jared, I don't know how much of this one you caught or anything. I did not get a chance to watch it or anything like that. Yeah, but I've read the articles about it. Despite losing, the Cards used several different pitchers in this one, and they just got beat by a team that unloaded on them in 1 inning.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about the loss yesterday, especially after getting the win Thursday. Virginia's top 25 in RPI, which is not something you're used to seeing with Virginia in terms of softball. They going into this weekend, they had only lost 1 time at home all year in 20-plus games, so they definitely had a great home field advantage. Getting the win, great. On Thursday was great. However, Louisville choked away a 5-1 lead in the last inning, and I think part of that was on Holly April for kind of quick to pull the trigger and pull pitchers out of the circle, and that's something we've seen the last few years. Is when she's ready to pull a pitcher, it doesn't matter what you're not going to be able to convince her otherwise, and that's hurt the Cards at times. But they were able to get the extra inning win on Thursday with certainly a lot of help from Easton Lotus going 4 for 5 at the plate, and Char Lorenz with the home run. And, but you kind of knew Virginia's offense was due for kind of a big game, and I think they took it to heart that they lost at home in extra innings the day before. And, so yesterday was pretty expected for me. I'm curious to see how Louisville responds today, because you've got a series against Florida State next weekend, who's top 10 in the country. Florida State's going to be coming off of a pretty extended break due to having some games canceled this weekend due to a pretty unfortunate situation that went on down there a couple of days ago. But so Louisville really needs to get this Virginia win today, just in terms of not just seeding in the ACC tournament, but actually making the ACC tournament. They're kind of in that bottom 3 or 4 that's competing for those last couple spots. And I'm not sure Louisville makes the NCAA tournament this year the way they're going. I think they're going to be on the outside looking in. However, making the ACC tournament, getting a little run there, could sway the committee's decision. So I think it's crucial you find a way to get to ACCs. And you've got to win today as part of that.
We have the rubber match in the 3-game series today at noon. This one will be available on the ACC Network Extra. So jump over there and catch it after our broadcast. The Cards on. The season case 23-19. Really, the only down thing you could look at as far as Louisville softball goes right now is their ACC mark. Is they're at 6-11, which obviously, when you take a look at the over 2/3 of your losses have come in the conference, it's one of those things where you got to wonder what's Louisville got to do, obviously, to get better in conference. And I don't know if there's an answer right now or not.
Well, I think last night the answer would have been play better defense. You can't give up leadoff doubles, and then when you do give up leadoff doubles, you cannot give up errors that score runs. In last night's game, Virginia scored 8. They scored 5 in that 4th inning, that big one that you talked about. But only 5 of those 8 runs were earned, and only 2 of the 5 runs in the 4th inning were earned. So, it's it's not great to do that. We've seen inconsistency from this team, and I think the biggest problem for Louisville is that they are inconsistent at different times. Sometimes they'll be very good at pitching, and the bats will be nowhere, or the defense will struggle. Sometimes they'll be aces on defense, pitching is nowhere, bats are nowhere. And sometimes they'll, score 11 runs and get beat 13-11. Louisville is not putting good together every game, but they're also not putting good together most games, and they're not even putting good with okay. When they're good in one spot, they've been kind of just bad in the other phases of the game, and they've been good enough in one of those 3 phases in a bunch of games where okay would have won the game, and they're just not getting that for whatever reason, and I don't really have an answer for why that is. It's head scratching. It's not based on opponent. It's not based on who's in the circle. It's not based on the lineup. It doesn't seem. It's just kind of baffling, the situation that Louisville finds themselves in. And the ACC is good. When they had the Louisville and Kentucky game, they talked about how many teams in the top 25 were SEC teams. I want to say it was 14 or something. And then how many teams in the top 25 were ACC teams, and I think it was 8. So, a ton of the top 25 are teams in the ACC. And so Louisville's playing up against that night in and night out. But we talk a lot about with lacrosse, Scott Teeter showing incremental improvement. And I don't know that Holly April's teams have shown incremental improvement since she's been here. Sometimes they look like they're doing well, and then other times it's a random fall off, right? Louisville is in, like you mentioned their record, 6-11, 23-19 overall. Overall, Louisville is 243 runs scored and 211 runs against. So that's quick math, 32 plus 32 overall. In conference play, they are 79 runs scored and 124 runs against. So that is negative 45. That's a big swing.
Something you see, Casey, in addition to that, is overall, the Cards are actually below 500 at home with a 7-9 record, and they're over 500 on the road with a 7-6 record. Now, how many times do you see that in the body of work for a program? Usually home is where you come in and get the W. You're in front of the home fans. You're in a comfortable area, a turf you're familiar with, obviously walls that you know how to hit. It's not the same this year for this Louisville team. So, Jared, just some of your overall thoughts about how this team's going to basically finish at, and one of the things that you think that they might need to be looking for in terms of when Holly goes to recruit next year.
Yeah, the team should definitely finish over 500. I'm not worried about that. It's just I don't see them making the NCAA tournament. I think you want to look at probably being RPI top 35 or 40 once you have to factor in all the conference tournament winners that get the automatic qualifying bids. I don't think Louisville's going to finish in that range for RPI purposes. Just too many losses. Part of that's just, as Case mentioned, ACC is very good. You played ranked Virginia Tech, ranked Duke. You're currently playing ranked Virginia. Next week you play ranked Florida State. You got a lot of tough competition in there, and you're not getting enough wins out of it. You may be competitive for part of it, but then you're also turning around, you get run ruled in a game here and there too, which is bad. So
part of the problem has been they're not splitting series. They'll split this series, right? Whether they win or lose, it'll still be a split series. But that Duke one you mentioned, you get swept by Duke. Split a series against North Carolina, but North Carolina's not that great. Swept by Virginia Tech. They're not winning. It's not just that they're not winning series against those good teams. They're not winning games against them.
Yeah, and I think if you can go 1-2 in every ranked matchup you have, it puts you in a much better position than what you're currently in. Unfortunately, Louisville's just not been able to do that. As you mentioned, inconsistency, whether it's the pitching, the defense, the offense, it changes each game who's going to play well and who's going to have an off game. And it's certainly frustrating. The offense, there's just not a lot of big power hitters. You got a couple folks, obviously Charlotte Lorenz being one of them, that can put it over the wall. But when you only have 2 or 3 players that you can say, hey, they might actually be able to go yard, and you're relying on a lot of small ball, a lot of slap hitting, then you're relying on having to get runners on base, but then getting some balls out of the infield just to allow those runners to advance and score. And I just don't think small ball is going to cut it when you're playing in a Power 4 conference like Louisville is. I don't really expect much change next year, though. And I don't want to completely blame it on recruiting. I think a lot of it you can turn your attention to more of the facilities are outdated when you compare it to a lot of our competition. We're not investing in NIL the same way some of these big schools are. SEC's got money to throw around. Even some of the ACC schools we're going up against. I mean, Florida State's facilities are top notch. Virginia Tech and Duke have some really nice facilities, and ours haven't really been altered much since it was constructed back in early 2000s. There was hopes they were going to put in a kind of an indoor facility, extended batting cage, pitching area there along the first baseline. That never happened. No funding for it. We talked about in the past where you lost Sarah Gordon and Corby Otis both to SEC schools a couple years ago, and they followed where the NIL money is. Louisville just doesn't have that. So I don't really expect any changes to happen. I think we're just going to kind of be in the same loop with the same old for the next few years.
More than anything, the NIL basically is such a major player now in the college athletics landscape. And
I think it's going to be the same with lacrosse too. Unfortunately, is it you're going up against by far the toughest conference in the country. Not to move away from softball already, but just to throw some comparisons here is, lacrosse. We're not throwing any NIL money towards them, so some of your best players are going elsewhere. Our facilities, they're just there. There's nothing that's top notch, top tier about them. You go elsewhere and you see these grand locker rooms and workout facilities, and I think at least in terms of our stadium, we're definitely in the running for one of the better stadiums because it is a lacrosse only stadium. But even then, just you're going to follow where the money is a lot of the times with these players nowadays.
I think one of the things that as I was getting ready to kind of segue into lacrosse anyway, so I'm glad that you kind of mentioned that a little bit as the Cards actually ended the regular season, and as it turns out, the end of the season in entirety with a loss up at Notre Dame, unfortunately, yesterday. The Cards falling pretty dramatically short in this one too, losing 17-6 to the Irish up there in Arlotta Stadium up there, which I've never been to, but I'm assuming it's a standalone lacrosse facility up there in South Bend for Notre Dame.
I believe so.
Okay, the Cards just not getting it done offensively with a mere 6 goals. You've got to be able to score. And Teeter, give him credit, has always had pretty decent scorers in the past who could come in and put up the big numbers for him. But this year, I just don't know if it's there or not. As his season has ended, got some good performances out of some of the underclassmen. Reese Whitman had 2 goals yesterday. The guy Nakazawa, a couple of assists. But is that the answer, or does he need to go even deeper into the recruiting path and start to maybe trying to land some players to come in here to supplement what he's got?
Well, offense under Teeter every other season has been perfectly fine. As you mentioned, a lot of great scores. It was just a funky situation this year where you graduated 3 of your top 4 scores or 3 of your top 5, and then one of your top returning offensive players gets hurt before the season starts and is out for the full season. And you're just in a really funky situation there. I don't expect the offense to have a poor showing again next season. I think they'll be fine. It's going to come down to when you mention the recruiting. It's the same thing as our facilities. They're not top tier. We're not investing in NIL. So we're not going to be able to keep pulling the best players, or just in general pull the best players. They're going to go elsewhere, to Boston College, North Carolina, Northwestern, just anywhere else that's got some great programs that can afford to throw some money their way.
I think it's interesting. You look at kind of the landscape of college athletics in general, and looking at NIL and how it impacts the University of Louisville, who has plenty of issues that it's dealing with as a university. But as an athletics program, as fans of the program, we know this. Louisville has historically been a very well-rounded athletics program. You've gotten success kind of across the board. I think in the NIL era, that maybe is a problem for fans because you don't want to give up any of the success that we've seen in the past. We're begging for better performances from our softball team, from our women's softball program, or from our women's soccer programs, from lacrosse, who we think can be better in the ACC, from baseball, from men's soccer. But also, we've tasted the top in men's basketball, in women's basketball, in football. And those are going to really drive the NIL money, right? And so if you want to compete in the big name sports, that's where the money has to go. if you want to compete in the non-revenue sports, you've got to contribute some money there too. You look at Boston College. Boston College is not going to win a bunch of basketball games. Boston College is not going to win a bunch of football games. And Boston College fans know that. They've always known that. But they are going to succeed at hockey, both men's and women's. They're going to succeed at lacrosse and at field hockey. And so more NIL money will go to those programs. Northwestern, same thing. They made the NCAA tournament in men's basketball for the first time ever 2 years ago, right? They know they suck at basketball. They certainly know they suck at football. And so, they're going to contribute the money to softball, to field hockey, to lacrosse, the same things. And so when you look at Louisville, that has historically been a well-rounded athletic program, what do? Do you want to be well-rounded and kind of mediocre? Fans don't want to, but they also don't want to see the teams and programs that they've come to adore. They don't want to see them go to the basement and be sacrificed for the success of other programs at the school. And so that's kind of the struggle that we're in now that wasn't really a consideration 6-7 years ago.
We mentioned NIL has changed the landscaping of college athletics for sure. Some of the things I think maybe as we move on here a little bit, let's swing it on over to the hardwood indoors, talk a little bit of basketball here, as the Cards have been very, very busy here. I think in the off season, Jared, with bringing in the last I counted, I think 4 new players, either through out of high school into Louisville or from the transfer program. Starting back with Skylar Jones, and then a couple of weeks ago, or no, about a week and a half ago, bringing in Raina Scott. And we get news a couple of days ago of 2 more. Laura Ziegler and also Peyton Bradley joining the 2025 recruiting class. Let's kind of break these last 2 down here that have come in, Ziegler and Bradley, and kind of look at what they're going to do for Louisville, what their skills are, and some of the things that they're going to be able to show Jeff Walsh, hey, this is what I can do. Give me a shot to do it.
I think the main focus he was looking at this year was you've got to pull in some veteran players, those that have experience. Losing Nyla Harris, whether that was her decision or a U of L decision, it kind of remains uncertain, but you have no seniors going into this upcoming season, and you've got 1 junior in Elif Istanbuloglu. That you kind of need some veteran players to come in and just almost be a safety net for a lot of your younger players, because you're certainly going to continue to ride high on this most recent freshman class that's now elevating into sophomores. So, the point guard position was one without having Jada Curry anymore, and you really needed to find a really big-time point guard that just control the offense, run the offense, get players settled down when needed. And then he went and he found a post player in the portal, too. It seems like the biggest thing the fans will gripe about with U of L women's basketball is that we just don't have big players. When you're looking at 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", and it seems to be a kryptonite when you get to NCAA tournament, as we find ways that we just lose in the paint. Post players get dominated down low. Olivia Cochran was undersized, and then I think even Nyla Harris to play a 5 was a little bit undersized. So I don't have any problem with what he did, pulling these players in and also just kind of replacing some key pieces that have now graduated and moved on. So I think it's fine. I'm actually more interested and curious to see how he goes about replacing Steph Norman, who's been really like his, I don't want to say right-hand man, so I guess right-hand woman ever since he stepped foot on campus.
Yes, indeed. Another area that we'll kind of delve into before the show ends. Just quickly, though, let's talk about the most recent 2 to join up. Peyton Bradley, of course, was such a standout at Meade County here in the state of Kentucky during her playing career. A 5'8" guard can definitely score. There's no doubt about that. Has scored over 3,000 career points during her high school career. Tell me she's not a shooter. I'll tell you that you're wrong. Because if you've got that many points at 5'8", you're doing something right. Wall was very excited about her. Kind of just saying she's a relentless scorer, a scorer that comes in with a high basketball IQ and a tough player. Walls has been working on tough players for quite a while now, and it looks like he's got another one in the mix. So we'll certainly hope that she can come in and do some good things for the Cards, and certainly look forward to see how she's going to fit in. I think to the actual role of this Cardinal team. Bradley, I think could do some good things here. Let's see, just see how it works out for her, and let's see basically how it turns out for her as they get into things. The second one, we'll talk just a little bit about Laura Ziegler. Laura Ziegler, certainly a player that has got some nice, impressive credentials, guys. Uh, Started her career collegiate, or her collegiate career at St. Joseph's, and a player that did some good things there. Originally from Denmark, guys. So once again, Walls has gone across the Atlantic to find some talent here, Case.
Yeah, it you're gonna get more of that FIBA play, and I think that it'll be very intriguing to see, um, multiple people in the front court with that FIBA experience. It's going to be a little bit of a unique little bit of a unique setup in this collegiate game. You'll have Elif and then Ziegler playing alongside each other. Um, you know,
And let's not forget Jeffermans.
and Jefferman's right, which I did, completely spaced on that. But that's going to be a very interesting situation. Now, I think where the question comes in is, but how does that translate? We've talked about the toughness. We've talked about getting bodied and being a little bit undersized. And at 6'2" and with a forward, and 6'2" with 6'2" or to 6'4" with Jeffermans, that's still a little bit undersized in those positions. Elif, we've seen, has stepped out to be able to shoot the ball a little bit more. But if that's going to be how Louisville's going to play, the entire team is going to have to operate in that way. We can't have the kind of mixed situation that we've had over the last few years, where the lineup doesn't necessarily reflect the style of play, and so perhaps that is why Walls has gone this way and tried to fill out that front court more with players that play a similar way. You'll have Anaya Hardy, who will be strengthening up this summer, moving into next season, that can hopefully fill more of that traditional role if you need somebody to bang on the inside against a more traditional large, like a large post presence team. But this would make Louisville very unique if they're playing the collegiate game more like traditional Euro basketball, and it could make them very dangerous, but it could also fail miserably, and so we'll just see how that goes.
Jared, when you take a look at Ziegler and what she's done so far, I mean, she was to use the term, the bee's knees up there at St. Joseph, averaging 17.5 points a game, 10.4 rebounds a game in her junior season. She averaged a double-double in her junior season. Now, obviously, playing for St. Joseph's, not maybe the toughest competition. The Atlantic 10, not considered one of the stronger conferences in women's college basketball on the D1 level, but still, she was one of 5 finalists for the Becky Hammond Mid-Major Player of the Year award.
Yeah, it's great to bring that score in. I think you put her alongside Taj Roberts, and you let those two kind of be your primary scorers this upcoming season. I think you've got a lot of players that can come in and offer some offensive output as needed, and if you have a foul trouble situation here and there. But it seems like Walls has always kind of had a go-to player or two offensively throughout his career, and this goes back to Maisha Hines Allen, Asia Durr, Dana Evans. I mean, even Haley Van Lith when she was here, you had somebody or a couple players that you can go to and be like, "I'm drawing a play up for you. I know you're going to score," and we didn't have that these past couple years or so. So I think he's going back to his roots. I think even with that big freshman class last season and trying to keep them together, he's kind of tired of trying to build a roster on transfer portal alone, and he's just going to use the transfer portal to help fill out gaps as needed, which is great. And he's doing what he can to find those go-to scores again, and not put into question, who's going to be able to take the shot at the end of the game for me.
A lot of excitement, obviously, about getting Ziegler, and we'll see how she fits into the scheme of things. I think certainly her size, athleticism, and what she's done in the past in floor vision make her a very, very important asset in the Cards front court coming up in the next season. So, and we'll cover this one just briefly. We don't really know a whole lot about what all transpired here, but longtime associate assistant coach for the University of Louisville, one who basically came in with Jeff Walls when he took the job and has now decided to move on, as it were. Of course, certainly it hit me right between the eyes as a big surprise. Jared, your thoughts on basically Stephanie Norman saying, guess what? I'm going to this school over here. Bye-bye.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious on what all, I guess, led to that. Norman's been here since day one with Walls, and I know she did go after this Arizona State position a few years ago and was a finalist but did not get it. So I don't know if maybe she's just looking for something new. I don't know if maybe the addition of Amanda Butler caused any type of commotion last season. I have no idea. I know Norman played her in their graduate ball and was a letter winner at Arizona State. So I can understand her going home, and she's going to a program that's got probably one of the best up and coming coaches right now, especially who's dominated the mid majors these last few years. So, I get it. If you're going to go somewhere, go play for a coach that's got a bright future like Molly Miller. But it was definitely a bit of a shocker, especially the timing of it, because there didn't really seem to be much indication, and I didn't hear any whispers ahead of time about this, so it seemed to catch everybody off guard.
Certainly it did, Case, and I guess the next question then, okay, she's gone. Who replaces her? Who comes in to replace her in I would assume, an assistant coaching role? And you're not going to actually replace her with somebody who did the same duties she did. You're basically just bringing in another staff member, okay? But I've heard some names, not many, but a few, and the one that seems to keep coming to the front is Courtney Walton. Just some of your thoughts on maybe the promotion of Courtney as the ex-Walls player to join this staff?
Yeah, it's a spot we didn't expect to be in. I think that as far as bringing in someone that has familiarity with the program, has familiarity with Walls, I think that's kind of invaluable. When you look at what you're losing with Norman, it's not just the capabilities that she brings. It's not just her coaching ability. It's not just all of the things that make her. It is also that cohesion in the coaching room, and that relationship with Walls. So I think that you have to be very careful about what hire this is, because we've seen some cracks in the Jeff Walls armor the last few years. I think we got a little bit back to the normal mad scientist last season with, like we talked about, and building the roster a little bit more traditionally, but still, I think that it would be. It is a very bad time to have a potential aberration in the Jeff Walls camp, as it were, in the Cooper Fitness Center, Planet Fitness Cooper Center.
I would assume that Jeff has a long list of willing applicants to come in and basically be an assistant coach on his staff. I would once again kind of point and say, why not bring in Walton? She's got experience in different positions on campus. She was a fine player for you. Played for some of the best on the Louisville history. She knows the game inside and out. And most importantly, she is well known and liked in the community, and also would be a boon in recruiting here in our area. We'll see, though. You never know what the mad scientist is going to do. And I know we're going to lose Jared in just a couple minutes here. So we haven't lost you yet, have we, Jared?
Nope, I'm still here.
Okay. Let's go ahead then, I think, and move on into our final thoughts then, as we kind of wrap up, put a bow on this very good podcast today. Again, we did a wonderful job on this. So, Jared, go ahead and start us out with what you got for your final thoughts today.
Yeah, I think for my final thoughts, I would just like maybe some communication from U of L in athletics on what is our end goal here. What's our plan in terms of our investment towards programs? Are we going to invest everything into our profitable sports like football and basketball, which I can fully understand is how you make your money and keep the program afloat, or are you going to try and invest in any of your nonprofit and your so-called Olympic sports? I just want clarity there. I want to know what we can expect going forward. Like, are these programs just going to end up being a bunch of like average 500 programs going down the road for a while? Are we going to invest something in there to try and make them a top 25 caliber? Again, I just want to see and know, maybe just more, so we can prepare and anticipate what to expect.
Clarity and definition, yes. Two things I'm sure that the rest of the fan base as well would like to see, where we had no doubts about things back in the Tom Church days. We had a total what me worry Vince Tyree era. And now basically, let's see what's going to happen here. Where are we going to put our strengths? It'll be a fun time in Cardinal Athletics because certainly we are well known in a lot of programs. Case, your final thoughts?
Yeah, give a little shout out to the rowing team. We haven't talked about them much, but they're in Oak Ridge, Tennessee.
Did I lose you, Case?
You did, kind of, but I was still here. I was talking to nobody except myself as I was on mute there. Talk a little bit about the rowing team. We haven't talked about them much, but they are in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, at what is now called the CCRHP Championship Regatta, the Southern Intercollegiate Rowing Association. And I'm sure that these results have already happened today, since they usually do rowing very quickly, but haven't taken a look at those yet. But from yesterday's events, semifinals, Louisville sent 4 boats to the A finals today. So novice 4, varsity 8, and then 2 teams from the varsity 4, or 2 boats from the varsity 4 crews all made it to the A finals today. So, yeah, so that's an exciting turnout for them.
Certainly got to love that indeed, on what they've been able to accomplish. And Derek Copeland has done a wonderful job down there on campus and also at his rowing facility in building that program up. And I mean, it basically just started with hey, we're going to walk around and ask for prospective student athletes, hey, you want to join the rowing team? It's come from there too, where they're now having applicants from all across our nation sending in requests to join that team. So good for them, certainly. I'm going to take us in a little bit of different direction. Certainly, an area that I think about this time of year, and one that it's been a lot of fun is women's golf. I've been, following this program with Kelly for a long, long time. Certainly, some of the things that I like about the program is that we've got a head coach in this program that basically was one of the greats in Kentucky women's golf as an amateur, and has also moved on to now cement our program with a very, very fine stamp of leadership. Obviously, with Lauren Hartlett's gone, the one that we all looked to for several years as the face and the name of Louisville women's golf gone. So it'll be interesting to see what they are able to do in order to, and I don't think you're going to replace her, but maybe supplement her as a golfer that can come in and do some of the things that Lauren did. Lauren, of course, now on the LPGA Tour, out there doing some wonderful things in the professional ranks. So, love to read about the golf, although I no longer play it anymore. Love to kind of watch it on TV occasionally, and certainly follow our Cardinals as they continue to participate in a very, very tough ACC, and also taking parts in some very, very important tournaments like the Cardinal Cup, for example, last year. UK's big Betty Lou invitational that they have in Lexington every year. Some of the other ones that the Cards basically will travel about, take part in, and certainly try to get to the best that they possibly can. So, we've had a great show today. I want to thank everybody for listening as we look forward to what's going to happen in I think, the rest of spring and summer with Louisville athletics. And certainly want to watch how softball season is going to end for our Cards. So, till we talk to you next week, we'll leave you with the always go Cards.